Welcome to the Country Hipster Podcast, Season 1, Episode 2, Willie Nelson's Stardust. If you heard the intro music coming in, that is by the Unholy Four out of Charlottesville, Virginia. Make sure you check them out. The song's called Dirty Knife. They are available on Spotify and Bandcamp. And if you check it out, I believe they have an Instagram as well. So go and check out the Unholy Four. It
smells good.
Most important thing, smells good, yeah. Most important thing is, what are we drinking here? What do you got that you just poured there, sir?
I texted Paul on my way up here and told him I had to go pick up something special since we're covering Willie Nelson. Willie Nelson's not from Atlanta where this is made. This is Sweetwater. They're extra pale ale. They're 420, but it's Willie Nelson, so 420. Happy 420, y'all.
Yes. And I just realized I made a mistake. I didn't do a proper introduction. And I am Paul, the Country Hipster, and this is my brother Adam, who is my co-host. So forgot that at the very beginning because it's not in my notes. I'm a notes guy. No. I gotta have the notes. I am drinking from Bucks County Brewery, which is a local brewery here to Bucks County, where the Ottsville Record Garage is located, and my house subsequently, and is about less than 15 minutes from my door to their door. So I like really? That. And this is a Choosy Chowie Wowie, which is they just have it on here as an Indian Pale Ale, about an India Pale Ale, but it's actually more of a New England IPA.
Juicy.
Yes, I've had it before.
CHUICY.
Yeah. It's good. So cool thing about this brewery here, I am actually I was there yesterday picking up supplies for tonight's podcast. We have this one. We have another beer we'll be cracking into as well. And I got talking to the owner, so I'm kind of working with them about maybe doing a little collaboration stuff. But as I mentioned in the past, I'm also a musician, and I will be playing at the Bucks County Brewery. So, as we mentioned, we film in advance. We don't do this in real time, obviously. And we're a few weeks out. It's still March. I am playing there in April, but by the time you're seeing this, that's already passed. So you can actually catch me on Memorial Day at the Bucks County Brewery from 2 p.m. on 5/29, weather permitting. All the music and the food trucks and all that. It's a small tasting room in the brewery, but it's a cool little tasting room. And outside is, they'll have music and they'll have food trucks and they have picnic tables. And there's also a distillery that is not owned by Bucks County Brewery, but they tend to work together. So distilleries there as well. And
if I remember correctly, they passed a law in Pennsylvania where breweries can serve liquor provided that it's distilled in Pennsylvania.
That may be possible. It makes sense. So. Yeah, I've seen that. Okay. But I think wineries can do the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, cool. So it's there. I will be there on Monday, 5/29, May 29th, Memorial Day at 2 p.m., weather permitting, and I'll be playing some music for you. And
I like the logo. It gives off heavy Jaeger vibes.
A little bit, yeah. I like it. So what have you been up to?
Nothing much. Had a stomach bug last week.
Ooh.
Yeah, I tend to drink... When I go to work, I work overnight, so I get on my way into work. I usually stop and if I'm low on cigarettes, I'll pick up a pack, and I'll also buy Monsters. And the Monster that I tend to drink a lot of is called Pacific Punch.
Okay.
And it's essentially just like what would happen if Hawaiian Punch got you all fucking jacked up. But it's that same color as Hawaiian Punch.
Okay.
So I got to work, wasn't feeling well. Thought it was because I didn't come from my normal way to work, which is just basically straight lines. It's a lot of windy back roads, and I thought maybe my motion sickness was getting the best of me. Not the case. So around 1 o'clock, I went over to the manager and I was just like, "Hey, I gotta go." I'm like, I've been feeling like I'm gonna throw up the entire time I've been here, and he's like, "Yeah, get out of here." So I left, got home around 1:30, was getting my bag out of the trunk, and I'm like, well, now's the time I'm going to throw up. But I had 2 cans of this Monster. So luckily I was throwing up at 1:30 in the morning, in the alley behind my house, because if not, it would have looked like I was dying of Ebola, because I saw it the next day when I went out to smoke, and it was still on the grass, and it was just beat like fucking like Play-Doh red. Like it looked fucking bad. It would have looked horrifying to anyone watching this come out of my mouth. But yeah, that was good. That's really, yeah. I had to call out for work for the first time since I've taken my new position.
Okay.
Because that wasn't good.
No.
But aside from that, I mean, I got really nothing else going on.
Yeah. Good.
How about you?
What did I do this weekend? I was as I mentioned before, I live on a 3-acre property in Ottsville, Pennsylvania. So I started doing like some like cleaning up of the property, which is pretty cool. I was pretty excited about that. I got my zero turn out, which is completely ridiculous that number one, that I live on a 3-acre property. Number two, that I have a zero turn. But I fucking love this thing. It's great. And like the people who we bought the house from, I guess they thought like, oh, we're going to leave them with this piece of shit like trailer thing, right? And yeah, the tires were flat and all, and it's just this big metal trailer. It doesn't have like a back to it, so like if you put something in and it goes up, it all falls the fuck out.
Yeah.
But it's still a good friggin' trailer. All I did was fill up the tires with air, and like so like I had like the people who we bought the house from had a tendency of, instead of properly disposing of their debris,
Just
like
kind of piling.
they would just pile it up somewhere and then like throw other shit on top of it. So I went through, because we're going to have our deck done, the back deck, the big deck, which we will probably do an episode from the deck. We also plan on eventually doing, when the weather's totally good, doing an episode from the fire pit. I love my fire
right
pit.
now it's kind of rainy and shitty outside, so it wouldn't have worked tonight.
No.
What temperature-wise is good, but rainy-wise is shitty.
Yep. But so, because we're getting the deck done, they got to take down the old deck. So we're going to be getting a dumpster, and so I'm going to throw out all the debris. So I went around on Saturday. I'm sorry, Sunday. No, Sunday. Sunday I did that. I went around on Sunday and I picked up some of that shit, which actually wasn't quite as much as I thought it was. Picked some trees I'm going to have to cut down. So I know you said you wanted to. What are the 3 ways you want to cut down trees?
Oh, no, there's only 2.
Oh, it's 2. Okay.
Yeah, I want to cut one down with a chainsaw, and I want to cut one down with an axe.
Okay. Well, I have by the fall I will be taking down at least 4 trees, possibly 5, possibly 6. It depends on what's growing and what's not. Yeah. So I'm going to take this summer to go around, and what doesn't form leaves, which I already know 4 of them definitely won't because they're already dead. I probably should have taken them out last year.
Yeah.
I'm going to just go mark them and then be like, all right, fuck it. We're going to take these down in like, August, September. So, doing that and getting that shit together. So that was kind of fun. And also I played a show Saturday night, and one of the coolest fucking things that ever happened to me as a musician happened to me that night. I was playing this place called the Farmhouse Tavern, which is right down in Doylestown. So, I play a lot of shows in Philly, or have played a lot of shows in Philly my whole life, being that, up until recently I lived in Philadelphia my entire life. So I'm trying to get more shows in the Bucks County area, or at least, closer, because right now to get to Philly, it takes a little bit over an hour for me, or about an hour, depending on where in Philly we're talking about. So it's cool to be playing in Doylestown, which is like 15 minutes from my house, and play the Farmhouse Tavern, which is like a small little place. And after my first set, I'm sitting there talking to some friends, and this kid just hands me this paper, and he drew a picture of me playing.
That was the picture you posted.
That's the picture I posted on social media the other day. Yeah, but it was like fucking awesome. And oddly, it looked like me, and I'm like, oh god, I'm ugly. But besides that, it was like really cool, and he even did like the background, because they had like a fireplace right next to me and like another table and all that. And it was really cool. So yes, I posted it on social media, and I said I was going to hang it up, and right now it is hanging up on the wall. Adam can.
Oh, it is. Can confirm.
It is. He can confirm it is hanging up on the wall here in the Ottsville Record Garage, and right by my Skinny Lister autographed album covers and my Hooters autographed album cover. Right next to that is the picture that this kid drew, who I don't know his name. He didn't sign it, anything like that. I just thought it was really cool. So, but that was definitely one of the coolest experiences ever playing music, was having this like kid who I don't know who the hell he is, just handed me this picture they drew of me. So that was pretty cool.
I had a very probably one of the coolest things I haven't played. Paul has plays shows a lot. I've played a handful, and in that handful of shows that I've played, one of the greatest things was I played me and Zach's old roommate Tim. We played it was a benefit for autism awareness that was at a disc golf tournament, I think in Tyler State Park.
Nice. Yeah.
And there's this one kid there who was born. He was very autistic, and he was also, I think he was either, if I remember correctly, he was born without eyes. But yes, but it's like, so me and Tim just played a bunch of covers.
So it's kind of like the it's like that Billy Idol song, only opposite. Instead of eyes without a face, it was a face without eyes.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Cool.
That's what he was going for.
Sorry if that's insensitive, but I had to go there.
So we were playing a bunch of covers, and the whole time, like, we were playing, this kid was just fucking loving it. And then the girl who, I guess, like, his, not social worker, but like caregiver that was hanging out with him, like, yells up and asked if we knew any Billy Joel, because apparently this fucking kid loves Billy Joel.
Just stuff from The Stranger, though.
Yeah, we only play. Yeah,
yeah. You don't play 80s Joel.
No,
or you do play only 80s
yeah,
Joel.
we only play 80s Joel.
Only play 80s Joel.
Honestly, I don't remember what we played. We played Still Rock and Roll to Me.
Okay.
It was just
you played 80s Joel.
Yeah, we happened to in making a list of a bunch of covers to play, we were like, oh, let's play fucking Still Rock and Roll to Me. Yeah. So we played it, and this kid just fucking like loved it. It was like, all right, it was like that. Awesome. And then they paid us, and like they gave us a case of Sierra Nevada Pale Ale.
Oh, okay.
They gave us a case of, who makes Hop Devil?
I think it's Victory.
That's right, Victory, yes. Hop Devil, and they gave us a case of something else.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what the third one. It was Dogfish Head.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm like,
that's how you got paid?
Yeah, we got paid in like three cases of beer, and like they gave us like these goodie bags that had a bunch of like, it was at a disc golf tournament, right, so it had like my bag had a putter in it. Tim's bag had like a mid-range disc, had like t-shirts from the event on it, had a bunch of like coupons and shit for Wawa because they were one of the sponsors.
Nice.
A bunch of different like bottle openers and shit.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I have played for less, so I understand. So my favorite is there's a winery I got married at, whereas like the guys, like, you know, I talk to him all the time. He's a really good friend of mine, and he's the winemaker and the owner of a winery, and he'll be like, oh, you want to play? And I'm like, yeah, sure, I want to play. And I never talk price with him because, like, whatever, he's going to hand me cash, I'm going to get tips, and I'm going to walk out with no less than 3 bottles of wine after getting fucked up all day. So
yeah,
it's great. I love shows like that, right? I could just be like, yeah, I'm just going to drink and have fun and go home with some great wine. So so that is exciting. Another thing that's exciting, as of the time I was doing my notes together for the show this morning, we are up to, on the YouTube page, we are up to 14 subscribers.
Yeah?
And I don't know all of them.
That's awesome.
I don't know all of them. So I'm like, nice. Because I think before we did the last episode, we were at like 12. So we picked up 2 more in a week.
Yeah.
You know, down from like, but that's like way up from the 3 we were at like 2 weeks ago. So.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like once, it always makes me laugh. Like when me and Zach started Summer Movie Club, like when we started posting, you can look up your it's run by through Spotify, so it runs your analytics, tells you like how old the people's age groups that are listening, where they're listening, and everything like that. So it'll break it down by like country, and it'll tell you like, so it will say like 98% of the people listening are from the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, it's because that's where me and Zach live. So like it's the 4 people that we know that listen. But then you open it up, it goes deeper, and you'll tell you that like we have people like at least a third of this. We have like we've had listeners in at least a third of the states. We've had. Let me see if I can bring it up really quick.
Well, as you were doing it, I brought up the stuff for this because we did set up the same thing for the Country Hipster podcast. So you know, you could be listening to this if you're not watching us on YouTube. You could be watching and listening to us on Spotify. Which are the only 2 places where you can get the video is YouTube and Spotify. But you can also listen to us on Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio. I forget what the other ones were I set up. Amazon Music, you can listen to this as well. So, you know, and I think there's some other platforms. So ours don't go that deep because I just set it up.
Yeah.
But it's funny you say that because our audience is all dudes. Nice. Between the age of 45 and 59.
Nice.
So that's what we're looking at here. Yeah. So basically me.
Yeah.
Like our podcast is me.
Yeah, so the Summer Movie Club podcast has 91% of its listeners living in the United States. But then 2% live in Germany, 2% live in the United Kingdom, and then less than 1% in a bunch of different, like we have Poland, Brazil, Canada, Indonesia, New Zealand, South Korea, Greece, Finland, all over the place. There's the one that we always joke about is Bangladesh.
Okay.
We always say that there's a guy in Bangladesh named Bangladesh Benny who listens to the podcast.
That's nice. That's nice.
But yeah, so you can see some interesting stuff on here.
I have shipped things to Bangladesh. So
1% of Summer Movie Club's listeners are non-binary.
There you go.
Yeah.
Cool. So what's going on with Summer Movie Club? What do you guys have coming up? What do you I think like this is going to be mid-May. So I don't know what you guys are working on right now.
At the moment we actually have an episode that I have to edit and post. We took a little bit of a hiatus. We're in the process of doing this like random 10 movies that me and Zach want to cover. So the last episode we posted was Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story. And then we covered a movie that I have to edit and post as a movie from that I remember renting from Blockbuster a lot it was a movie called Warriors of Virtue. Mm-hmm. It's essentially essentially this kid falls into an interdimensional portal and lands in this world where there are anthropomorphic kangaroos who do kung fu.
There you go.
And I said to Zach, I apologize for making him watch this movie because 7-year-old me thought it was great, but like 32-year-old me wants to kick 7-year-old me in the head. So, but we're going to be recording an episode. Today is Monday. We're going to be recording an episode on Wednesday about Fargo.
Oh, nice.
So that'll be coming up, and then I think I'm trying to think if the list that we're working on will bring us into May. I think it might bring us into the middle of May.
Okay.
So when these start airing, we'll actually be able to tell you something. I'll actually be able to tell you something we're going to be covering that will be new. So
if you like movies, go check out the Summer Movie Club podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Spotify, Anchor, Anchor, Apple, Google, whatever. Basically. There's some that we stream to that I like. It'll tell me something, and I'm like, I've never even heard of that one, so no clue. But yeah, there's streaming to a lot of them.
All right, so nice segue to what we are actually here to talk about. I'm going to hand this over to Adam since this was one of his selections at the end of last week's. Is that something written on that?
It's the artist.
Oh, it's the artist. Oh, okay. All right, go for it, Adam.
So the album that I added to my list, which we'll get into. I'm going to get into a little bit once we start discussing, but we're covering, let me open up my notes real quick. If I'm not mistaken, 78. Yep, April of 1978. This is Willie Nelson's Stardust. Album was recorded late December of 77 in the Enactron Truck Studio. I want to hopefully I'm pronouncing that properly. Came out on Columbia and was produced by Booker T. Jones.
Okay.
Who I looked into Booker T. Jones, and he's done a lot of stuff. He's an artist in his own right. And also
yes, he is.
And also produced Grammy Award winner. From what I was, take what you read with a grain of salt on Wikipedia. But apparently, if I was reading correctly, like him and Willie Nelson were kind of like neighbors or something. And Willie Nelson was like, "You want to fucking produce a record?" And he's like, "I guess."
Which is cool. It's funny, the studio.
He's like, "What are we doing?" He's like, "A bunch of covers." Like,
yeah. Which apparently Columbia did not want to put this album out.
No, because that's another thing I was reading up on is that he basically followed some pretty successful, original albums with a cover album.
Yeah.
Which is he's Willie Nelson. He can do whatever the fuck he wants, but like it's an interesting move. Some little interesting factoids. Album peaked at number 1 on the Billboard's top country albums and number 30 on the Billboard 200. But apparently it charted number 1 in Canada on the RPM's country albums. I don't know what RPM is.
No idea.
Royal Mounted Police.
Maybe.
And number 28 in RPM's, top albums. So, and then the singles Blue Skies and All of Me were peaked at 1 and 3 for respectively on the Billboard's Hot Country Singles. 79 Nelson won an album for Best Male Country Vocal Performance for Georgia on My Mind. Where did I read? This album spent 10 years on Billboard's country album.
That was one of the things I wrote down about, which I thought was
Yeah.
pretty fucking amazing. That the album came out in 1978 and was still charting in 1988.
A cover album.
Cover
was
album.
charting in
An
10 years
album
after the fact.
and that just shows you like how great this album
Yeah.
really is, even though it's like standards and different arrangements and whatnot. And we'll get into that more. But like it's just like it's not even his music, but he made it his own and was able like this album sustained an album that the record label didn't even want to put out.
Yeah.
Sustained charting for 10 years. It's amazing.
Reached number 1 in New Zealand, number 5 in Australia in 1980. 2012, Rolling Stones ranked it number 260 on the magazine's top 500 greatest albums of all time.
Okay.
Album has gone
That's
quintuple.
actually been updated a few times, so I wonder
if it's still on
there. Yeah.
Album went quintuple platinum, which what do you sell for platinum? A million? Is it a million?
I think
so.
So
He's probably sold like 5 million copies of this fucking album. And in 2015 was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame.
Nice. So,
and again, it's crazy when you think of it like,
hold on,
it's a fucking album. It's a cover album.
Yep.
It's Me First and the Gimme Gimmes, but Willie Nelson.
But cool. So in 2012, it was, as you said, it was ranked 260, and I know they've done it a few times since then, and it does not, and I could be wrong about this, but it does not appear to be on the list after the 2012 top 500. I don't know if that's right. I'd have to look again. So I guess it's possible that it only made it on the first one, because I know they've done that list at least 2 other times, maybe 3 times. Always changes a little bit, never super drastically, but like I know the last time they did it, like number like 500 is like Harry Styles.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, really? Okay, I guess.
Was it the first Harry Styles solo album? Because honestly, the first Harry Styles solo album wasn't terrible.
I don't know, the one with him on it. You could he's putting his leg forward, whichever one that is.
I think it's his first solo. Yeah.
Okay.
I forget what it's called, but I do remember listening to it, enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
The album starts off real mellow. Stardust is super, super mellow. I'm gonna campaign that we should change the name of Georgia on My Mind to While My Harmonica Gently Weeps. Yeah, I mean I in retrospect I wish I didn't put this on my list.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Because honestly, like getting through it, so Paul, what's your history with this record?
Oh God. Okay, so my history with this record is that our father played the fuck out of this when we were kids. We would be in the car, and he would always be playing Willie Nelson Stardust, to the point where I fucking hated Willie Nelson and I hated Stardust. Even though I knew nothing about it, I just know that he would play it all the time. Yeah. In retrospect, especially since I've had a lot of car issues, it was probably just stuck in the fucking tape player, really. But who knows? But he used to play it all the time and be like, we gotta listen to this again, and he would fucking, it would drive us nuts as kids, because like season 1 we'd be driving with, and we're like, seriously, always on my mind. And actually I wasn't even, that was not even on this album, but just like whatever it was, we were just so like, fucking come on, really. So that was my thing, and I really didn't rediscover it until like much later in life. And I mean, you go through different stuff, and especially when it comes to like musically, your taste change. It's kind of like food. Your taste buds change every 7 years. Every few years, your musical taste change, and then you get opened up to other things. And so this is one where I was just kind of like, yeah, all right, I like this. This is cool. This would not have been on my top 25, because I actually do have a copy of this in my personal collection. However, here's how I'll preface this. So I got married in June, and I have, let's say, about 500-600 records in my personal collection. My wife has 50 or 60 in hers, and so she actually, upon getting married, right? Like, that actually was funny. It was like 3 days after the wedding. I actually sat there and combined our collections and put them in alphabetical order because she had like a shelf with her stuff, and then every other shelf was mine. So I was like, I put it all together, and put everything in alphabetical order. She's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, we're married now, so there are albums now."
Yeah.
Which, I mean, honestly, if she decides to divorce me, she gets half my albums, so that fucking sucks. But the copy that's in our collection,
she'll probably leave you all the Beatles just to piss you, even though all the Beatles are hers.
They're all hers.
Yeah, but she'll probably leave them just to be a dick.
She'll be like, "Oh, I'm leaving you all the Beatles," and I'm gonna, and if we're probably like getting to that point in our life, she'll go out and buy a bunch of Led Zeppelin albums and be like, "I'm gonna leave these too." I'm like, "But you just bought them." She's like, "No, they're yours."
No, we just bought them.
So it's actually her copy, which she purchased from Siren Records, which is a record store in Doylestown, which is it's kind of a cool record store. I've been in there a couple times. I don't think I've ever actually bought anything from there, but I have shopped there, or I've window shopped there, and I've been in there. But hey, before we keep going with the history, we're gonna open up this other beer, since we're
it's got Sasquatch on it.
Yes, it does. Since we are both empty at this point. This is another one.
Ooh, Cinemonster?
Cinemonster from Bucks County Brewing.
This might be fucking rough. Dude.
It's the Cinemonster. It has a little Yeti on there. And this is a Imperial milk flavored stout Imperial milk stout flavored with cinnamon and vanilla. You see what I did there? I fucked up the words because I'm dyslexic. So don't judge me. If you do, you're an asshole.
I make fun of enough for you guys.
Exactly. There you go. So this is a 10.5% alcohol by volume. So we have to share this because otherwise we might be fucked up by the end of the podcast anyway. But
Let me smell it.
Go ahead.
Oh, this might be rough, dude.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's going to be rough.
Well,
that high of an alcohol content with it's going to be syrupy.
It looks syrupy.
And it's going to be...
as it's pouring out.
There's a brewery called... There's a brewery called Southern Tier.
I love Southern Tier.
And Southern Tier put out a line of what they refer to as dessert beers.
Ooh.
And one of them was called Thick Mint. And they only sold it in the pint and a half size bottles.
Okay, the big bottles.
Yeah.
Sharing bottles.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the one was called Thick Mint. And it's and they're all like teens percentage wise. Like they're all like 10 to 15%. And this one was tasted like a Thin Mint.
Mm-hmm.
And it was super fucking syrup. Like I had one glass of it. I'm like, I can't fucking sit here and drink another glass of it. I made a milkshake out of it.
Ah, nice. I will tell you, all that Southern Tier shit is fucking higher, with the exception of like the 8 days a week. The one day I was sitting outside, and my friend who owns the winery came over to one night, and I had a fire, and it was just me and him. And we're drinking. I'm like, yeah. And he goes to me, he's like, hey, what's the alcohol percent on this? And I'm like, I don't even fucking know. And I look, and like it's like 7%. And at that point, I had already drank like 3 or 4 of them. I'm like, fuck, this is like 7%. He's like, oh shit, do you have anything weaker? I'm like, I don't know. He's like, oh, it's like at a mixed pack.
Like, yeah, I got some Golden Monkey if you want that.
Yeah, right. Needless to say, I got fucked up because I wasn't looking at it. But Southern Tier, I love the Southern Tier, so I'm gonna try this guy here. You said it was pretty good?
Yeah, it's not bad. It tastes like a Christmas beer.
Ooh, that's delicious. That like dances.
Yeah, it tastes like it tastes like you just want to be like sitting in front of like a roaring fire.
Yeah.
Listening to
there's a little bit more.
Listening to Nat King Cole.
I have some Nat King Cole. What's funny, you say that. Okay, but we'll get into that in a second, that you say that. But so you asked about my history. I kind of told you that's my history. What is your history with this album?
Kind of the same thing. In fact, my copy that we're talking about is Dad's copy.
Okay.
I remember growing up, Dad always had. There was always in the living room. There was always a stereo system. It had like the big what the fuck do you call them? They're not mixers, but the thing that controls like the
amp, the power amp.
No, I mean it's where you switch between like the CD, the cassette.
Right. Yeah.
So we all
I fucking know what it's called, but I can't. It'll hit me like
it was that kind of stereo system though. Like it was one unit that then powered a bunch of other different units, and there was a cassette and a CD and a turntable, and then there was always a cabinet full of records. And they always just kind of sat there, and I never saw Dad touch any of these records. The only time I ever saw him touch one is when I came home from school, my first day of high school, and there was a girl in my English class named Anastasia, and when the English teacher was doing roll, he got to her and said, he's like, Anastasia, and she said here, and he said, Anastasia screams in vain. And he's like, anybody know what that's from? And I did.
What is that from?
It's from Sympathy for the Devil.
Oh, okay. All right.
So he was like, I'll give extra credit to anybody who comes in tomorrow and tells me the historical events that they mention in Sympathy for the Devil.
Mm-hmm.
So I went home, broke out whatever Rolling Stones greatest hits album that happens to be in there.
It was probably Hot Rocks, the greatest hits. Yeah.
So. I broke that out and was listening to it and figuring out all these things. That was the first, because that was the first time I ever put a record on. So Dad had to teach me how to turn a fucking record on.
Yeah.
And then so like I've always, and at a certain point,
and so just for reference point, that's like the early 2000s, right?
2004 was when I started.
Yeah. So
high school,
whereas I grew up with records, so it's like second nature to just put on a record. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I bought my first record while I was a freshman in high school.
Okay.
But
what was your first record?
It's on my list. So
it's on your.
Okay, so I don't want to talk about it.
So mine. Okay, so I got two that I'm not 100% sure which one is my first record, but I know I bought both of these. These were one of my first two. I just don't remember which one is one and which one is two. I think I know which one is one, but I'm not 100% sure. The first two records I remember buying are Madonna, Like a Virgin, which I think is the first album that I got, and Bon Jovi, Slippery When Wet. And honestly, I bought the
Don't admit to any of this in public.
No, too late. No, first of all, I fucking love Madonna. I love old Madonna.
You guys keep a fucking secret. Paul's lame.
Yes. You'll trust me. When you see some of the albums when it comes through that are on my list, some of these you're gonna be like, oh my god, why are we fucking listening to this fucking guy and his expertise in vinyl, which I have no expertise in vinyl or music. I just fucking like records. You know what I mean? But so I'm fucking huge Madonna fan, actually. I fucking love Madonna. Up to a certain point. At one point it gets just too like I don't even know what that point is, but there's some point where I'm like, wait, is this Madonna? I'm like, I don't even want to listen to it. It's like like the real like late 90s 2000s Madonna stuff. I'm just like I couldn't identify with it. Not that I could identify with being like, well, could identify with Like a Virgin, when I was touched for the very first time.
I just imagine the only Madonna song Paul can relate to is music makes the people.
I think that's about when I got out of Madonna. It was like right around that time. But I did like, I fucking love.
Ray of Light, wasn't Ray of Light Madonna?
Yeah, I didn't like Ray of Light. I think, you know what? Probably Like a Prayer was the last album where I said like, I like this. There might have been a couple things after that I kind of liked.
That's because Like a Prayer is a good fucking song.
It's a good album. It's a good song, good album. But True Blue is a fucking great album. That's probably, in my opinion, her best album. And then Like a Virgin, and then Bon Jovi, Slippery When Wet is the other one. But honestly, the reason I bought Bon Jovi, Slippery When Wet had nothing to do with music, had nothing to do with Bon Jovi, had nothing to do with Jersey. It had to do with the fact that on the back were these girls in bikinis at a car wash. It looked like it was a car wash. That is why I bought Bon Jovi, Slippery When Wet.
That's what's up.
So there you go.
But yeah, sorry, I was just trying to find. There's the 6% version, but I'm trying to find the 10% version on Untapped.
There might not be.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, so I at one point acquired. I forget like why they got moved around, but the records ended up getting moved around. I started getting into records, and I just kind of absorbed all of Dad and my mom's records, and this one came with it.
Your mom gave me a bunch of records too at one point. Yeah, like very like years ago before you were even like a thought. So, yeah.
So like I've always had it. I think I said to Paul last time after we started recording, I can't remember if I've actually listened to this album all the way through before now. I may have only like given it like a side one and then like got distracted or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, so I've always just kind of had it. I got it. If I look through over there, I probably have a handful of Willie Nelson from Dad.
Mm-hmm.
There's one thing that there's never a short supply of in Skip's collection is Willie Nelson, Simon and Garfunkel, and George Carlin.
And Frank Sinatra.
But yeah, just like listening to it, and like I was like, it's a good album. Don't get me wrong, it's a good album. It's a boring album.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I found it boring.
And it's on your 25.
And it's on my 25. And like I said, in retrospect, I could probably find something in my collection that I would replace it with. But it was like listening to it, I was like, yeah, like it's like I'm sitting there and like every time a new song comes on, I'm like, all right, is this the last song? And then another song comes on, I'm like, fuck. All right. And it's not a very long album. The album's under 40 minutes long.
It is. Yeah.
But yeah, it was just like I was sitting there like I like I said, I enjoyed it while I was listening to it. Like it's a good album, but it's just like I might not, like, unless we have to do a part 2 of this like in a few years, I'm probably never gonna listen to Willie Nelson Stardust again.
Wow. Okay. So listening to this made me realize how much more I actually want to listen to this album. Number one, just the you mentioned about the studio they did it at. It was like a truck studio. So what I was reading about was basically,
I don't know what that means.
Yeah. So it was the control board was actually a trailer in a dude's driveway.
Okay.
And they actually recorded the musicians were inside the house.
Gotcha.
So that's where that comes from. So
that's actually how they did what's it called too? That's how they recorded Zeppelin 4. Yeah, I was watching did you ever see the documentary
does that have to do with Led Zeppelin?
Well, it has to do with Jimmy Page. It's
No.
about guitar. There's a documentary called "It Might Get Loud," where it's Jack White from the White Stripes, the Edge from U2,
yeah, you know what?
and Jimmy Page.
I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah, talking about guitar, and they go to the house where they recorded 4.
Okay.
And at one point, Jimmy Page is talking about they're showing the staircase where they set up the drums for the intro of When the Levee Breaks.
Okay.
And they were talking about it. He's like, he points up and there's like a little window. He's like, that's where we ran all the fucking cables through from the trailer outside. I was like, that's kind of fun and you know.
But yeah, so that is how it was recorded. And one of the things that I think makes this album, and honestly I'm going to call it perfect, is the simplicity of the recording and the arrangements. It's so broken down.
Yeah,
You know
it's
what I mean?
very
Like,
it's very mellow. It's very.
you take these standards, which would have been very easy to jazz them up or brighten them up or add all these things to it. Like you could have added strings, you could have added all these vocals, you could have done all these different layers to these standards, which ultimately, like, you know, Linda Ronstadt had an album of standards that she put out in the 80s that is that.
Yeah.
It's all those different layers. And this is not that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have other instrumentation, but I mean, you really have.
At most, you have him with his guitar. You have harmonica, some piano, and some
drums.
like, and some very like cymbal, not even like drum heavy drums, cymbal heavy drums, like very.
A little bit of slide guitar, I think, is in there a little bit, probably bass, but I mean, it's just broken down and it's definitely. It's funny because like at that time, like now we're looking, you know, came out in 78, recorded in 77. So you're looking at an album that was recorded 45 years ago, which now I identify these songs as this is the way these songs are played.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas at that time, this was Willie Nelson's version of these songs, which I mean, they still are, but like, you know, the simplicity of the album, is one of the things I like about it.
I just thought of something funny. Keep talking. I'll tell you something funny in a minute.
Okay. All right. So, and it's funny how you were mentioning like this beer reminds you, oh, it should be like a fireplace. Listen to some fucking Nat King Cole. So, this album, one of the notes I made was that like this is a. Oh, wait. Sorry. Got to check my blood sugar. I had to put a new sensor on, and my blood sugar is good. There you go. At any rate,
you spilled beer on my phone, and now I have these weird little marks, and I gotta clean it.
Oh, weird. Okay. So
drunk asshole.
I'm not even drunk yet. So
that's why her blood sugar's so high.
Yeah. It's not. It's only 169. It's good. So this album to me. This is like I picture, and I'm gonna fucking do this now once my deck is done. This is like sunset in the spring, fucking sitting on the deck. Got like a a little smoker or like a glass of whiskey or something like that. And you're just fucking chilling, and like the heat, like it's cooling down for the day, and you just got this fucking album just playing in the background, and you're just fucking relaxing, just sit and relax and just enjoy life.
My note about Moonlight in Vermont is this song would pair well with a bourbon on the rocks.
Yes.
What do you want? The majority of the album.
Oh, you're still drinking.
I'll pull one of those out in a little bit.
You know what? They're kind of warm still. I'm gonna actually go to a Southern Tier 8 days a week.
There you go. But when you said how like in your mind like this is how these songs are played now. Fun fact, I at least not cognitively heard the Smashing Pumpkins version of Landslide before I heard the original version of Landslide.
Okay.
So in my head, Landslide was a Smashing Pumpkins song. Until like, way later down the line where someone played the original. I was like, oh, I'm like, that makes sense, I guess.
I will say, I don't dislike the Billy Corgan version of Landslide. I have some personal issues with Fleetwood Mac, which is at no fault of Fleetwood Mac's, which maybe we'll get into one of these days. Maybe we'll do a whole episode about my issue with Fleetwood Mac rumors.
All 25 of my albums are rumors. I saw a Family Guy bit that made me laugh the other day where they're at a Stevie Nicks concert. And they're like, Peter's like dressed up as her.
And like the Belladonna Stevie Nicks. Okay.
Yeah. And the song ends and she's like, what's she gonna play next? And he goes, what is it, Edge of 17? He's like, if she plays Edge of 17 next, I'm gonna need some room to twirl. And she starts playing it, and he just starts going. I was like, fuck, that was a good goddamn joke.
Yeah. Nice.
You just had the fucking shawl and everything, just like whipping it back and forth. I'm like, that's fucking funny.
So the other thing about this album that hits me is that like this album, and when you think about it, when you think about the style it's played in, a lot of the keys of the songs, because the keys make a difference. Man, this is like a sad album.
This is an emo album,
but in a comforting way.
One of my notes that I took, they're actually back to back.
What do you say an emo album? I'm like, man, did Willie Nelson make the first emo album?
For September song, my note is Willie is hurting inside. Yes. And then for On the Sunny Side of the Street, I wrote, he may be hurting inside, but he has not forgotten how to feel joy.
Yes.
But it is like a very like somber, sad album.
It's just kind of like I said,
all of me snaps.
Okay.
All of me is a little bit more up tempo. I noted it.
That's what I say to ladies.
Yeah, I noted it.
All of me.
Yeah, I noted it as it's a head bobber. But like aside from all of me, like pretty much everything else is very melancholy.
It is, and that's kind of one of the things I dig about it. And I actually got to see Willie Nelson this past August.
Yeah, so you saw him recently, didn't you?
I did. So Katie and I, when we were dating, one of the things that like we both like are music and concerts and different stuff. And again, I was never a huge Willie Nelson fan. She loves Willie Nelson way more than I love Willie Nelson. But I love my wife, and I even loved her back then. And she was like, "Do you want to go see Willie Nelson in Bethlehem at Music Fest?" I was like, "Fuck yeah, why not?" I mean, guy's probably gonna be dead soon, so it's music legend. Like,
I figured this out today. I actually looked up today. He is 89.
Yeah. So I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So this was pre-COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So then COVID hit. Of course, everything gets postponed, and they postponed it to the next year. Everything's still not okay, and the dude's like in his late 80s. So like, yeah, we're postponing this again. You could get a refund, or you could keep your tickets. At that point, we were looking to buy this house and stuff like that, and we were just like, let's just get a refund. If something changes, maybe we'll buy tickets again. Yeah. You know what I mean? But let's focus on the house and stuff like that.
How much were tickets that you were like, we're looking to buy a house, we should probably refund these tickets?
So I'm not the money guy.
No,
you know what I mean? So I don't, they weren't like super expensive. But again, one of the greatest things about my relationship with Katie is that I don't have to worry about money anymore. And it's not that we're independently wealthy. It's just that I am a fucking idiot when it comes to money. So I handed everything. I was like, Here's my bank account. Here's how much money I make. Here's all my fucking debt. Da da da. So on and so forth. And whatever you do, whatever you do. And so she does that, and she says, "This is boom, 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 boom." And she's like, "You have this much money to go food shopping with." And I'm like, "Ah, cool." Whatever.
Doesn't she do that for a living? Like,
yes, something like that. But but it's just like, it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me, because I'm like, fuck, I like if you ask me right now, like, how much money I have, I don't fucking know. I have not a fucking clue. And it's like, it's a privilege to be like that oblivious to it, but she's got to deal with all the money stuff. So if she says, "Hey, we'll just get a refund for the tickets," I want to be like, "Yeah, whatever." You say so. Like, I don't do anything with the money. So
no.
That's what we did. So we canceled our tickets. We got a refund for the tickets. Fast forward to last summer. This is not long after the wedding. Her cousin messages her and says, "Hey, listen, I got 4 tickets to Willie Nelson in August, and we can't use them. Do you guys want them?" And we were like, "Fuck yeah!" So it was the reschedule of the original show we were supposed to go to. There was better seats than we had.
Oh, nice.
And Katie's like, "Oh, what do you want for them?" And she's like, "Nothing. Just fucking go. We just want you to use the tickets. We're gonna be out of town." So fuck yeah. So me, Katie, and 2 of my friends, we went to see Willie Nelson. And here's the thing, and this is one of the reasons why I was kind of like juiced, like, see Willie Nelson, because he's so old, and if you're gonna place odds, like, you're gonna bet on, hey, Willie Nelson's gonna be dead soon. Not that I want him to be dead soon, but so you're not gonna have too many opportunities to do it. So my one friend who went, she actually was in Scotland when we found out about the show and whatnot. Like, and I said to him, like, I knew her husband, who I've known since high school. I knew he would want to go, and I said, "Do you guys want to go?" And like, we have this like group text message. She's like, "That's the day I get in from Scotland." And we're like, and I was just like, "Yeah, but it's Willie Nelson." And even her husband, who's very like laid back, was just like, "We might not actually get this opportunity again." And she was like, "Fine, fuck it, we're going to Willie Nelson that night." And so she literally, her plane got delayed.
Oh, Jesus.
Right. And it was coming into Newark on top of that. So she had to take a delayed flight from Scotland to Newark, and then had to take a bus down, because she was like on like a group trip, take a bus down from Newark to Allentown, PA. And still they met us at in Bethlehem to see Willie Nelson, and it was cool. She was fucking exhausted. I was a little drunk because I played a show that afternoon. Katie was pregnant at the time, so good thing about having a pregnant wife is they have a designated driver. So it was a good show, man. It was kind of one of those things where, like, you wonder, like I'm sure the band itself, I'm sure they practice. Guarantee fucking Willie does not practice.
No, I'm sure. No.
And I don't mean that in like a bad way, but just like the whole,
I'm sure at this point for him it's just muscle memory.
Oh, it's I don't even think it's muscle memory. I think he's just like, yeah, no, I'm not fucking practicing. I know these songs. Fucking you learn them. You learn the songs and you follow me. And that's exactly what happened. Because there were a couple times like they were playing where he just like went on, and like the rest of the band would have to adjust to what he was doing. But it was like cool. It was cool to see that. One of the things that struck me the most about seeing him live, or seeing him live, was how, like, he has Trigger, is like fucking super guitar with the big fucking hole in it.
I was gonna ask you about that in a second.
He fucking shreds, man.
Yeah.
He's sitting there, like, there's songs where, like, like there's solos in them, and you think like, okay, he's got his grandson who sounds almost exactly like him vocally, and you have like, like a harmonica player who was actually also pretty fucking awesome. Which that was the thing that struck me too. Like the harmonica was pretty much the lead guitar of the whole thing. But like there's some songs with like some guitar solos in them, and the good thing about going to see Music Fest at Bethlehem is like we had good seats, but we weren't like up close.
Yeah.
But they had these huge fucking monitors, so you can kind of see. And you're sitting there watching like Willie Nelson, and like, I'm like, oh fuck, man, that dude can fucking shred. And then he would also just stop playing. Yeah. Like he'd be singing and you'd see him strumming, he'd just stop playing. He'd be like, and it just keeps singing and be like, whatever. I don't give a fuck. Fucking really so that was good. That was really good, and I was very glad that I got to see Willie Nelson.
Did you see the it came I can't remember when it came out. It came out a couple years ago. There was a video that came out. I think it was 2 videos actually that came out on YouTube of Willie Nelson. I don't think he's his guitar tech. I think he's just the guy who he has that maintenances Trigger.
No.
It's this video, and it's this guy. He's a luthier, and he's the one who maintains the just the constant shitty falling apart state that Trigger is in.
Nice.
Like Paul mentioned, he plays an acoustic. He plays a classical Martin classical guitar is what Trigger is. So it has the sound hole, the big sound hole in it, but then right below the sound hole, Willie's like worn through the wood,
yes.
So it's got just
two sound holes.
Yeah,
potentially. Yeah.
So it's just like the guy's talking like he puts like he puts like a piece of a mirror inside the guitar, so you could see the inside of the backside of the hole. And he's like this was done a few years back to like sure the fucking thing up, and all the repairs just to not to cover the hole, just to maintain the state of the hole. It was kind of interesting because it was like, man, it's like, yeah, he's been it was I was like, he tells the story of how Trigger came to be. Is there was a company, I believe is the company Baldwin that makes pianos.
Okay.
Made guitars at one point. Started making guitars and amplifiers, and they made an acoustic guitar that had an amplifier, that had a pickup built into the bridge of the guitar. It was like one of the first electric acoustic guitars.
Okay.
And they had sent them out to a bunch of musicians to promote them, Willie Nelson being one of them, and he was playing a show. And some drunk guy broke his Baldwin guitar, and he was super pissed about it because he loved the sound of it. So he brought it to a guy, and the guy's like, "I can't fucking fix this. So like, this isn't a thing that could happen. This is dead." But he's like, "But I do have this Martin. I forget the model number, but it's a Martin classical guitar." He's like, "But I do have this, and I can recut the bridge and make it work, and take the pickup out of it and put it in this Martin," and that became Trigger.
Oh, okay.
Which is kind of interesting. Like I've always, I enjoy. There's I forget what it's called. I think it's called Rig Rundown on YouTube. You can watch. It's like a bunch of musicians talking about the shit that they play. But what I find super interesting is musicians finding one specific thing, and they stick to like that one thing. I was like with Willie Nelson with this pickup on this Baldwin guitar. There's another guy. You know the band The Kills?
Yep.
The guitar player for The Kills. I can't remember what the fuck what these pickups are called, but he loves these one pickups.
Okay.
And they only came in like this one model of guitar for a stretch of like a few years in like the 70s or something. He buys these guitars no matter how shitty the condition of the guitar is every time he finds one, just to take the pickups out of them.
No, I mean guitar players are, but there's something to that too, is that like when a guitar player finds their sound, right? You know, that's them. Like,
there's certain players where you can hear them and be like,
that's Stevie Ray Vaughan when you don't have to know the song, you don't have to fucking realize what it is, know what I say. You hear it, that's Stevie Ray Vaughan. Yeah. The Edge, that the Edge is playing. There's a bunch of other, like, I can't really think of it offhand. I actually thought if I had prepared myself, I would know this. Like Eric Clapton, when Clapton's fucking playing. Honestly, the dude, I can't remember his name. I saw them a few years back. The singer / guitar player of Nada Surf. I didn't realize how distinct his guitar sound was until I saw Nada Surf live, and I'm like, okay, now now I know that sound. I know that and it's the way they set it up, man. Fucking guitar players are fucking, you know what I mean? They're special people. That's why I'm a bass player and I'm not a very good guitar player.
Yeah, and you get like people who you can very obviously tell that it's them, like Tom Morello, because it's just a bunch of beeps and nonsense and bullshit.
Yeah. So Stardust, top 3 favorite songs.
I thought about this long and hard. Probably, I don't know if I'm gonna put them in any specific order, but I'm gonna go Unchained Melody.
Okay.
I really dig the version of Unchained Melody on this album. I'm probably gonna go On the Sunny Side of the Street. And I'm also gonna go Don't Get Around Much Anymore.
Okay.
Because my note for this is where I noticed it in this song. Listen to this album again. Willie Nelson is a Muppet.
Okay.
He sounds like a fucking Muppet. He sounds like, in my head, my note for Don't Get Around Much Anymore is this song is what happens if a Muppet was a crooner.
Okay.
It's literally, to me, he sounds like what would happen if Kermit the Frog and Scooter had a baby. You'd get Willie Nelson's voice on this album.
I will have to check that out.
Yeah.
I will have to do that. All right, so my top three. What are you looking at?
I was looking at time.
Oh, yeah. No, we're actually not doing too bad.
Yeah.
My top three. Number one, and absolutely, this is my number one. The other two, I'm kind of like, whatever. Number one, Georgia on My Mind.
Georgia on My Mind is probably like fighting to get on that list for me.
It is honestly, that is between that and Ray Charles. That is Georgia on My Mind. Though, like those, and it's good because both of them, it's like kind of like 1 and 1A as far as like the best versions, and they're interchangeable, but they're so different.
Yeah.
So like that song on that album, definitely my number one song on that album. Number two, Moonlight in Vermont. Fucking love Moonlight in Vermont. And number three, I had like kind of like a slash. I have a trouble, you know. I mean, I don't want to do top four, but I always like did this with the Bright Eyes album last week. But I have a slash here. It's either Someone to Watch Over Me / September Song, and I'm kind of a little more on the Somewhere to Watch Over Me. September Song I think kind of makes it under because it's fucking emo, and I think that's why I like it. Now it's funny that you mentioned one of your favorites is my least favorite song on this, which is Unchained Melody.
No.
So it's a good version.
Which is funny because if I remember correctly, for Bright Eyes, one of my favorites was Road to Joy, and you fucking hate that.
I hate that. Here's what I'll say. Unchained Melody as a song is a great song. Willie Nelson on this album does a great version of it. It's another one of those albums where everything is complete.
Yeah.
Much like the Bright Eyes, I'm Wide Awake, It's Morning. It's a complete album. Like, even though like he didn't write those songs, they're standards. It's a perfect grouping and a perfect thing.
He didn't just pick a bunch of things out of a hat. He picked songs to go together.
Yes. But to me, Unchained Melody and his version of Unchained Melody just doesn't quite fit with everything. It's just kind of like that, like, for me, it's like, maybe because there's so many bad versions of that song. I mean, because there's like the Elvis version, which people love, oh my love, you know, I don't know. But that's probably my least favorite song on that album.
Someone to Watch Over Me. You said Someone to Watch Over Me was on your list. It's a solid love song.
It is.
Georgia on My Mind, like I said, should be renamed While My Harmonica Gently Weeps. September Song, like I said, Willie's Hurting Inside.
Yes.
Moonlight in Vermont, you said, which did you say Moonlight in Vermont?
I did.
Yeah, I said earlier would pair well with a Bourbon on the Rocks.
Yep.
The one song that I did not like on this album was Blue Skies.
Okay.
I don't know why, but listening to it, something sounded off. Okay. Like it sounded like something was. If I remember, I just listened to it the other day, and if I remember what the thing that bothered me about it was, something sounded too up tempo for Willie's vocals.
Well, and for that album as well. Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying there. But it's still, I think it's a better song than Unchained Melody. No. So, as we do, we tend to look up these records on Discog, and what we're doing is we're keeping a running total of the 25 from Adam and the 25 that I have, and we're gonna see at the end of season 1 whose collection is technically worth more. It's just fun to do. It's just it's not a competition. Because I already know that I'm better than my little brother. It's just what it is. But we're looking up the albums on Discogs, and as we explained in the last episode, you can see a lot of stuff in the dead wax. You get the catalog number, you get you can find out where it was pressed, how it was pressed. There's all sorts of information you get from those matrix. It's much more prominent on the older records because
when you say how it was pressed, I just imagine the majority of the time it's just.
Well, yes, but I mean like 180 grand.
No, I know.
Stuff but yes, pretty much is. Which actually is pretty cool. I've seen those like videos like how it's made, like vinyl records. I'm like, oh, that's pretty fucking cool.
No.
So I did look up your copy before the thing here, and you do have a 1978 pressing, which is one of the. If it's not an original pressing, because like one of the things I found out when researching this album is that Columbia did X amount of records, and because they were not really behind this album, and so they did X amount of records. I don't know what that number is, but then it fucking took off, so they quickly started repressing them.
Yeah.
So you do have a 1978 pressing. The information I got on Discogs did not tell me
If it was an original or one of these.
Right. It was
one of these, it's making money, let's put out more.
Quick repressings. Based on the Matrix, I'm going to say it is either a Pittman pressing or a Terre Haute, or maybe even a Carlton. Mm-hmm. Just be the way they mix their letters and their numbers. So you do have a very old pressing of there. The average price of this record on Discogs goes for $9.74. The median price is $6, which happens to be, and what we agreed upon when doing these is that we're automatically just going to grade them as very good plus. We're not getting into the nitty gritty of the covers.
I don't think mine is technically very
good plus.
The
cover's different, you know what I mean? But the vinyls really is what matters.
Yeah.
But no, your copy has some weird scuffs on it. So
yeah,
it plays great, has a few pops and noises, but it's probably, if I was selling your album, I'd probably put it at good plus to sell, but that's not what we're doing here. So grading this on a very good plus, yours actually comes in at $5.85, which puts you, basically rounding it up, puts you at $6, which is the median price for this on Discogs.
Yeah.
So right now our running total is, with the one album that we've done so far, I'm at $78.
Yeah. And
you are at $6.
Yeah, so you're kicking my ass by $72 right now.
Right now I am kicking your ass by $72. I'm good with that.
Jesus.
So one of the things that we're doing is, and by the time you're going to see this, not right now, but by the time this comes out in May, OttsvilleRecordGarage.com should be fucking full, going forward, moving forward. We're going to be listing records every day. One of the things on OttsvilleRecordGarage.com is you can get to the Country Hipster podcast, and in that section, we have the albums that we are featuring on our podcast here. So if you're interested in buying the album, you can do that. However, with this particular album, Stardust, it's not really readily available on vinyl, at least not to me. There is a 180 gram, 45 RPM pressing from Analog Productions, which is really a fucking superior pressing. It costs about $60. Right now, for the distributors I have, that's not available for me to sell. Just because I'm not opening up with distributors who can provide that to me. But there are copies of that out there. Forget what year that came out, but it's a really good pressing. So I don't have that listed right now. However, I do have, I like to look primarily at used vinyl is what we're selling, but I did list the CD. So if you're interested in the CD and picking up a copy of this, you can go to the Ottsville Record Garage, scroll down to the bottom where the Country Hipster section is, and you can click on a link that takes you to all the albums that we're featuring on the podcast here.
I'm going to say this now on the podcast, and I stand by this. Paul can sell my copy of Stardust, provided that you buy it for $78, so I can tell Paul to go fuck himself. I think that's fair.
I don't think it is.
It's kind of famous now.
It's never gonna fucking sell.
It's famous. Look
at
it.
It's right. Famous.
It's right. Fucking. It's there. I can't.
Maybe if we get Willie Nelson to sign it, that'll happen. All right. So you want to grab the box of Michael there?
Sorry, I was drinking.
Oh, it's okay. All right. So you picked the last one, so I'm gonna go through here. All right, we got our box of Michael, which, if you don't know what our box of Michael is, our brother Michael is the oldest of all the siblings, and the oldest of season 1, and he loves Rush. So we crudely made this box, and I'm mixing them all up. We'll pull out an envelope. Here we go. Got an envelope right here.
What number you got?
Number 13. Lucky 13.
Lucky 13.
All right, so let's see what our next episode will be.
Is it my handwriting?
I don't know.
That's my handwriting.
What is this? Say anything.
Say anything is a real boy.
Is a real boy. That will be.
Let me see.
Go ahead, grab it, man. You got it over there.
Do I?
Oh,
I do.
I hope you do, because it's at fucking 25. So there you go. All right. So that is. It's one of Adam's picks for episode 3, which will be coming out next week. Say anything is a real boy. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not particularly looking forward to listening to this.
This is one of the ones that I knew. But the cool thing is I don't know if this is every copy, but it's at least my copy. It's
very nice, very nice. Well, that should help your value.
Yeah, I say the lights
should help your value.
The lights kind of are blinding it, but it is an orange marble kind of thing going on. So cool. That's fun.
All right, so that'll be next week. So tune in, subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe or follow us on Spotify, Apple Music, or Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcast information from. Check out the Country Hipster Podcast. We're also on social media. Country Hipster Podcast on Facebook, Ottsville Record Garage, OttsvilleRecordGarage.com. I am doing all of the commercials right now. Go check out the Summer Movie Club. And that's what we got for you for now. So it's time to move on! Move on!